Since colonists started coming to America in the 1400s, they laid out a very plain and simple way of life. They were strictly religious, went to church weekly, they prayed before every meal, and did not believe in alcohol, dancing, or African Americans becoming citizens.
4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! There on the side of the Allied President's Tower, innovation, we have it spelled out in great big letters. Didn't know about that.
Beginning in the 1920s, a cultural battlefield emerged between Old America and New America. The new generation completely obliterated every thought and moral that Old America had. For example, while Old America was very conservative, extremely religious, and valued traditional gender roles, did not approve of sex before marriage, were racist and discriminative, didn't believe in provocative dancing, and didn't tolerate the consumption of alcohol, the New America was the complete opposite. They drank alcohol, celebrated life, danced uncontrollably, dressed in ways that they've never seen before. Women became more independent, invented a new genre of fun jazz music, and chose evolution over Christianity. They were all about pursuing pleasure, whether that meant sex before marriage or getting blacked out drunk, which were everything Old America shunned and avoided. The Old America and New America had many differences between them. However, Prohibition, the New Woman, and the Harlem Renaissance were the most critical.
You're gonna dance with me, baby, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna dance with me, baby, I've got my eye on you.
I don't know if I realized as soon as I began seeing them that they represented the wave of the future, but I do know I was drawn to them. I shared their restlessness, understood their determination to free themselves of the Victorian shackles of pre-World War I era, and find out for themselves what life was all about. After more than half a century of hard work and activism, women were granted the right to vote. The 19th Amendment solidified voting rights for women and is still celebrated today. Getting this right to vote changed women's point of view in life significantly. In the early 1900s, women were restricted to wearing what was okay for their religion. They followed religions like Christianity. Women didn't believe in going out, sex before marriage, and dressing to show off their legs. Women were under strict marriage rules, where they couldn't work and they cooked for their husbands when they got home. When women got the right to vote, it gave them more power. They wanted to express their freedom and they wanted to be seen differently. Women changed their looks. They started to wear shorter dresses. Women adopted the flapper look. They stopped wearing corsets and they bobbed their hair, wore short skirts, high heels, and rounded hats with almost no brim. The style expressed the sense of freedom many women felt. Women wanted to live the lifestyle that men got to. They started to go out to bars and started to party. They went to places like the Cotton Club. The automobile created a role so young people could escape the careful watch of their parents. The New America made women more confident, and everyone was glad to live in it. Women were starting to get in the workforce and leaving their husbands at home. The biggest change was in their clothing. Women being seen in bikinis was a new but better lifestyle for everyone. Women began to show off more skin and being more confident with themselves. This New America was the era of the flapper. Flappers changed America's views on dancing, but even better, got America to start dancing. Women danced their hearts out as they wore fringy dresses and high heels. During the 1920s, America began to change from the old religious farm style to the new and exciting lifestyle.
You have every generation. People are always talking about the misspent youth and the behaviors that they exhibit that were inappropriate and everything else, just like today. The clothes were off, they partied too much, the girls were smoking cigarettes, my God. And they were doing all these things that their families couldn't understand.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's one you all can sing with us when the saints go marching in.
As women's pride increased, so did the African Americans. African Americans, like women, were finding ways to express themselves and their history. Many migrated north to avoid the prejudiced South. Hoping to escape the racism, 1.5 million African Americans moved north to cities. According to Digital History, Chicago's black population grew by 148% and Cleveland's by 307%. The growth of racial pride was evident. Many talented writers like Paul Laurence Dunbar and James Weldon Johnson captioned the life in black communities in their stories. In the 1920s, Harlem rose to become the capital of Black America, attracting artists from all over. An African American author reflected on the blossoming of black culture and said, "When I think of the Harlem Renaissance, I think of bright colors and bold dynamic art." African American artists of the period were in large measure breaking out of constrictions white society had set for them. They were claiming and remaking their own images and doing so in such bold and striking ways. Nikki Grimes described the Harlem Renaissance as a bold period because this was the beginning of a new era, a new way for blacks to express themselves publicly. They started taking a major step forward into the growth in universality. African Americans expressed themselves through art, a language that all humans can speak, which showed that their race is just as equal as whites.
Harlem was the hotbed of everything that was going on. I mean, if you look at the history of a lot of the musics that we listen to today, the beginnings of R&B, the beginnings of jazz, the beginnings of soul sound, was actually important because everything that we listen to now, a majority of the things that we listen to, the music, the stance, the style was created during, a lot of it was created during that era and presented. And what it did, it was the first step for the black population to create a new sound and a new environment.
Prohibition was instituted in the 18th Amendment, stating that the consumption of alcohol was illegal. This law was put into place on January 17, 1920. The 1920s was a time for change and rebellion. Coming off of World War I, the younger generation was into the booze and partying since they had been confined to the life at war. Now that the war was over, they believed that they should have had the right to consume as much alcohol as the generation before them. They didn't care that it was against the law, and speakeasies started showing up all over the country. Speakeasies are secret illegal liquor stores or nightclubs that people would go to drink, do drugs, and party. Prohibition was a major issue during this time period and really showed the difference between the new America and the old America. The old American way of thinking thought that alcohol did nothing but tear families apart. Men would go to work and then spend all of the money that they earned on booze, and then they would come home and cause havoc with their wives and family. And they decided that the only way to get rid of this problem was to make alcohol illegal altogether. The new American way of thinking thought this was ridiculous. The younger generation thought it was unfair and hypocritical to ban the consumption of alcohol, since some of them were just getting to age where they could drink. So, they decided to drink anyways. They didn't care that it was illegal. This was the era of defiance, and Prohibition definitely showed that. Prohibition later ended in 1933 in the 21st Amendment.
I think Prohibition was an issue because no one could understand why they were banning alcohol. And you had very, very conservative groups, hey, sounds familiar, just like today, that were trying to impose their wills on the people who wanted to have a good time. And they couldn't understand why it was allowed and why it came about.
The Old America and New America had many differences between them. However, Prohibition, the New Woman, and the Harlem Renaissance were the most crucial. These three social movements changed America drastically, not only during the Roaring '20s, but for society today. The battle between Old American and New American cultures shaped a completely new way of life and morals. Old religious beliefs, opinions on drinking, clothing, sex, music, art, and gender roles were shattered when the rapid-paced New America arose, rebelling against any laws or rules that were given to them. This raging age of sex before marriage, drinking bottles of illegal liquor from speakeasies, and African Americans expressing themselves more than anyone else brought us all to where we are today, and creating some of the best history in the making.
Hey, listen, Mr. Kane. Peace and love, brother. Have a great day.